Hi everyone. In the last few videos, we have discussed about phases of compiler and we have already covered lexical analysis phase, syntax analysis phase, semantic analysis phase and intermediate code generation phase. In today's video, we are going to learn about the next two phases, that is code optimization phase and storage assignment phase. So first let's start with code optimization phase. So what is the need of code optimization? We know that always we look for the better code, right? Okay, so whatever program we have written, it won't be executing. Actually, the compiler will look for the optimization. If there is any possible way to optimize the code, then that optimized code is actually executing in our system. So always we require better code for our execution. So it will save space as well as the time. So in this particular code optimization phase, the code generated is analyzed and improved for efficiency. So what is happening in the optimization phase? So here in the optimization phase, when a sub-expression occurs in the same statement more than once, it deletes all duplicate matrix entries and modify all references to the deleted entries. That means I have a statement in our source program. That particular statement contains a particular sub-expression more than once. So what we will do, we will eliminate the duplicate entries and we will maintain only one sub-expression in that. Once we delete the duplicate entries, then we will modify the matrix entries so that it will point to that wherever we have used the duplicate sub-expression, instead of that we will point to that common one sub-expression. Then this particular optimization phase should happen or occur before the code generation phase. That is, logically it should occur before we use the matrix as a basis for code generation. What is the input to the code optimization phase? Output of the intermediate code generation phase, right? What is the output of the intermediate code generation? We have seen the matrix form of our source program. It will be containing one source operator, target operand and two source operands. That particular matrix form will be given as input to the code optimization phase. Then basically we have two types of optimization, that is machine independent optimization and machine dependent optimization. First we'll see what is machine independent optimization. We know that we have an intermediate code as well as the target machine code. So intermediate code will be in the form of a matrix, right? So if we are optimizing the intermediate code, then it is called machine independent optimization. Why it is called machine independent? Because this intermediate code instructions are not machine dependent. That's why the optimization of intermediate code is calling as machine independent optimization. Then what is machine dependent optimization? In the last phase of the compiler design, that is code generation phase, we will generate the target machine code. Okay, if we are optimizing that particular machine code, that is the final machine code, that is calling as machine dependent optimization, because in the target machine code all the instructions are machine dependent because it is consisting of physical registers, right? Those are machine dependent. That's why it is calling as machine dependent optimization. So here machine independent optimization means optimizing our intermediate form of our source program, whereas machine dependent optimization means optimizing our target machine code. That is the machine code of our source program. That is the machine dependent optimization. Okay, so here when we talk about the code optimization phase in the compiler design, actually we are talking about the machine independent optimization, because it is doing the optimization of the intermediate form code, that is the machine independent optimization. So throughout this particular video, that is code optimization phase, we will be talking about machine independent optimization, and we will discuss about machine dependent optimization in the code generation phase. Now we are going to see what are the databases involved in the code optimization phase, otherwise machine independent optimization phase. The first one is identifier table. So what is the use of identifier table? We know that identifier means variable. So identifier table contains information about all the variables in our source program, and it has already created in the lexical analysis phase. But in the lexical analysis phase, it will enter only name of the identifier, whereas the remaining informations like scale, then precision, then base, all those information will be filled in the semantic analysis phase. Then here in this particular optimization field we require identifier table. We'll see what is the use of identifier table in the optimization phase. Okay, so I told you in the optimization phase we will look for repeating sub expressions in a statement. Okay, so when we are repeating this unneeded temporary storage, we need to modify our identifier table according to that, right? So it is accessed to delete unneeded temporary storage and obtain information about identifiers. So when we are doing the optimization, we need to get the information about the identifiers. For that purpose, we will be referring the identifier table, as well as when we are optimizing the code, we need to remove some temporary storage or temporary result. That time we have to modify our intermediate table. We have to delete that particular entry from the identifier table. So for that purpose also, we will be accessing the identifier table in this optimization phase. Then the next database is literal table. Literal table is the table or the database which contains information about all the literals or constants in the source program. So here when we are optimizing, suppose if we are generating any new constants, okay, as a result of optimization, then those new constants or literals information has to be entered into the literal table. So new literals that may be created by certain types of optimization will be entered into the literal table. Okay, so it will be clear when I talk about the algorithm of the optimization phase. Then another database is the matrix. Okay, so we have already seen about the matrix database in the semantic phase, right? So here in that phase we have seen what are the columns in the matrix database. So first one was operator, then the second one was source operand 1, and the third one was source operand 2. But here we will be adding two more columns or fields in the matrix database, that is forward pointer and backward pointer. Basically, what is the use of adding this forward pointer and backward pointer is that we know that as a result of optimization, we may need to add new entries into the matrix, or we may need to delete entries from the matrix. So whenever we are adding or deleting entries from the matrix, we need to reorder or relocate our matrix. So in order to avoid this necessity of reordering and relocating the matrix entries, we are using the pointers, that is forward pointer and backward pointer. Okay, so forward pointer, it allows to go through the matrix in the proper order. That means if this particular pointer will contain the index of the next matrix entry. Okay, so suppose this is the third matrix entry and the next will be fourth one. So here the forward pointer value will be 4. That means it is containing the index of the next matrix entry. Then backward pointer means what? It allows to it allows the backward chaining through the matrix. I told you, suppose if you are deleting any entry from the matrix, we have to modify or rearrange our matrix. So for that we are using backward pointer. So here backward pointer is the index of the previous entry in the matrix. So forward pointer to go through our matrix in the proper order. Backward pointer is for backward chaining. So forward pointer is containing index of the next matrix entry, whereas backward pointer is containing the index of the previous matrix entry. Okay, well, when we discuss about one example, this use of forward pointer and backward pointer is clear. Okay, so these are the databases using in the optimization phase: identifier table, literal table, and matrix. Now we are moving on to the different algorithms using for machine independent optimization. Mainly there are 4 ways. So the first one is elimination of common sub-expression. Then next one, compile time compute, and the third one, use of boolean expressions. Then the fourth one is more invariant commutation outside loop. Okay, so let's see one by one. So the first one is elimination of common sub-expressions. Okay, elimination of common sub-expression. So what does it mean, elimination of common sub-expression? It is nothing but elimination of duplicate entries. Elimination of duplicate entries. Okay, so before eliminating the duplicate entries, we have to check it has to satisfy one condition. That condition is the common sub-expression must be identical and must be in the same statement. That means we have a particular sub-expression repeating more than once. But suppose the sub-expression is occurring in different statements, then we cannot eliminate that common sub-expression. So when we are doing elimination of common sub-expression algorithm, the condition is that the common expressions must be identical and also it must be in the same statement. Okay, so that is the overall idea about elimination of common sub-expression algorithm. So we'll see what are the steps involved in this particular algorithm. So the first one is we have to place the matrix in a form so that common sub-expressions can be recognized. So before starting optimizing our code, it has to be in a matrix form and it has to place the matrix in the form such that we will be able to find out the common sub-expressions easily. Okay, then once we place the form in the matrix format, we have to recognize 2 sub-expressions as being equivalent. Then the next step is recognize the common sub-expressions. Then the third step is eliminate one of them. If there are 2, then eliminate one of the sub-expression. Then once we eliminate this duplicate entry, duplicate sub-expression, what we have to do, the last step is alter the rest of the matrix to reflect the elimination of this entry. That means once we have deleted what all entries were referring to this deleted entry, that has to be modified and it has to point to the common sub-expression. So the single sub-expression, that is the what once we eliminate, we have to modify the matrix accordingly. So these are the 4 steps in the elimination of common sub-expression. Place the matrix in the proper form and recognize the sub-expressions, then eliminate the sub-duplicate entries, then alter the matrix according to the deletion of the duplicate entries. Now we are going to see one example here. So here throughout this unit we are discussing about one example. In that example we have seen the declare statement, this is the assignment statement, and here we are going to see how we can optimize this particular assignment statement. Okay, so when you look into this assignment statement, we can see start minus finish is a sub expression and it is repeating twice. Okay, so before applying this algorithm, what is the condition? the common sub-expression must be identical. So check here, this is start minus finish, this is also start minus finish. So both the expressions are identical. And what is the next condition? It has to be in the same statement. Is it in the same statement? Yes, the throughout this is the end of the statement. So both the sub-expressions are occurring in the same statement. So the condition is satisfied. Now we have to apply the algorithm. So what is the first step? We have to represent in the matrix form such that we can recognize our sub-expression. So this is the intermediate or matrix form of our this particular assignment statement. So start minus finish. So this is the matrix line number and this is the operator and these are the operands. Okay, so first we are doing start minus finish and this is M1 and it will be multiplied with the rate. So rate star M1. Then we will be doing 2 star rate. Again start minus finish is coming. So it will be given as the entry M4 minus start finish. Then the like that we will be filling the matrix for this particular assignment statement. So we have represented in the matrix form, which is already we will get already from the intermediate code generation phase. And what is the next one? We have to recognize the common sub-expressions. Okay, for that what we have to do? We have to compare M1 with M4, M3, M5 and M2. Okay, so when we are combining, what is M1? M1 is start minus finish, right? M1 is start minus finish. What is M4? M4 is also start minus finish. Okay, so but M3 is 2 star rate, M5 is M4 minus 100, then M6 is M3 star M5. So the common sub-expressions are M1 and M4. Both are start minus finish. So first we place the matrix in the form such that we can recognize the sub-expression. Second step, we have recognized the common sub-expressions. How did we recognize? We had to compare M1 with M4, M3, M2, M5, M6 and M7. After that we will come to know M1 and M4 are same, that is start minus finish. Then what we have to do? Third step is eliminate the duplicate entry. So here I am maintaining M1 but here I am deleting the M4 entry. So M4 is also same start minus finish. So I am keeping only M1 and I am deleting the M4 entry. Okay, so we have place the matrix, we have recognized the sub-expressions, we have delete the duplicate sub-expression. Then what is the fourth step in the algorithm? Alter the matrix in order to refer to the deleted entry. So how can we alter? So here look into the first table. What is the fifth matrix line? M5. M5 equal to M4 minus 100. That means start minus 100. So it was actually M4 means start minus finish. But now M4 is not there. Instead of that, in that place M4 we have to replace it with M1. So M1 is start minus finish. So M1 minus 100. So we have made the changes to the matrix in order to refer to the deleted entry. Okay, so this is the example for elimination of common sub-expression algorithm. Okay, so here it will be checking for the common sub-expressions. Once recognized, it will delete, and after deleting it will modify the entire matrix contents. Okay, so here we have seen, we place the matrix form, we have recognized by comparing M1 with M2, M3, M4, M5, M6, M7. Then delete one duplicate entry, that is M4 has been deleted. Then in the fourth step we have altered the matrix such that we have altered the matrix by replacing M4 with M1. This is one algorithm, this is one method for the machine independent optimization. Now we are moving on to the another one, that is compile time compute. Compile time compute means we know that during computations, if we have any constants, we can save both space and execution time. So it will check if it is possible to get or reduce or optimize into constant value, then it will be always useful in terms of space and memory. So that will be performing in the case of compile time compute. So during the compile time, if we are during compile time when we are doing the computations, if we can generate any constants, then it will always save the space and time. So it will check for the constant generation. That is the compile time compute. I'll explain with an example. So here we have an expression a equal to 2 star 276 divided by 92 2 star b. Okay, so it is very clear that instead of writing this entire expression, we can compute the result of 2 star 276 divided by 92. The result will be 6. So during the computation or compile time, the compiler will convert this entire expression into 6 star b. That means that this entire computation will be converted into a constant value, that is 6. So the entire expression can be expressed in two statements. Okay, so first it will be representing in the matrix form. So first 2 star 76, so star is the operator, 2 is the first operand, 276, and the target operands of the matrix line is m1. Like that it will be representing everything. Then this is 2 and 276, both are constant, so it will find out the result. Then again m1 is a constant, then again for the m2 second operand is also a constant, so it will perform division. Again for m3 it will be representing 6 as the first operand and b as the second operand. So the entire code has been converted into, before it took 4 matrix entries, here it requires only 2 matrix entries. That is compile time compute. During the computation, if there are any constant, it will always save space and time. So it will check for the generation of the constants and it will do accordingly. Compiler will do optimization accordingly. That is the second one, compile time compute. Then the next one is use of Boolean expressions. Okay, suppose I have 3 expressions a, b, c. Okay, I have written a code to check all the 3 expressions value, that is a, b, c, but at a time I want to execute only one. So if we are writing a code, it is checking all the 3 expression, always it is executing all the 3 expression. It is time consuming and the code will be lengthy also. So what we can do, we can make use of Boolean expression. So in that case we can write Boolean expression like if a or b or c, then we have to execute a set of statements. So what will happen here, it will first compute the expression a. If it is true, then it doesn't need to check the or compute the expression b and c. It can directly execute the set of statements. So that is the use of Boolean expression. If we have a set of expressions and at a time we want to execute one expression, okay, so we can use the Boolean expression. So at a time it will check the only one expression, it will execute one expression. If it is true, then there is no need of computing and evaluating the other expressions b and c. So properties of Boolean expression is used to shorten the computations. This is the another third method. Then the next another possible way is more invariant computation outside loop. Okay, so all of you look into this example. So you can see here we have an outer loop, we have an inner loop. In the outer loop we have set of statements. In the outer loop we have 3 statements. It has labeled with LA, LB, LC. So the LA statement is A equal to 10. LB is B equal to Y into I plus 2. LC is C equal to C plus 10. Okay, so it is very clear that the LA statement, that is A equal to 10, it is always same throughout the inner loop and outer loop. Okay, so that particular statement A equal to 10 can be taken outside the outer loop, because it doesn't, even if we take it out also, it doesn't affect our inner loop and outer loop. The result A is always constant, that is 10. It is a constant value, so no need of putting inside the loop. We can take it or bring it outside the outer loop. Then another one, B equal to Y into I plus 2. Okay, so here I plus 2, the I is the looping variable for the outside loop. So in the inner loop, this particular statement b equal to y into I plus 2 is throughout constant for the inner loop. So no need of keeping this particular expression in the or statement in the inner loop. We can take this outside the inner loop. Okay, so that is another one. Then c equal to c plus 10. C equal to c plus 10 means what? For each execution c will be changing, right? So this particular statement we cannot take outside. It has to be in the inner loop. So when we consider these three statements, a equal to 10, it is a constant, so we can take it outside the outer loop, outside of both the loops. B equal to y into I plus 2. So I plus 2, that means this in this particular inner loop it doesn't affect. So we can take that particular LB statement out of the inner loop. Okay, so that is what is saying in the fourth method. If a computation within a loop depends on a variable that does not change within that loop, then computation may be moved outside the loop. That's what I have done here. These two statements doesn't require in the inside loop, so we will take it outside. Then where we can place this particular statement? It will be pointing to the position just prior to the loop from where you got it. Okay, so that is where we can place that expression. Okay, then after that decide the position, then place the expression. Okay, so these are the four possible ways of doing the machine independent optimization. That's all about the code optimization phase. Code optimization means it is always reducing the, or we are looking for the better code. Okay, and we have seen what are the databases using in the code optimization phase, and we have seen different algorithms for the code optimization. And throughout this code optimization phase, we are optimizing our intermediate form, that is matrix form code. So it is a machine independent optimization. Now we are moving on to the next phase of the compiler design, that is storage assignment. Okay, so from the word itself, or from the title itself, it is very clear that what is storage assignment. Storage assignment means what? As I mentioned in the previous video, what all variables we have in the source program, it will be assigning locations to the variables, and it will be initializing those locations. Okay, so that is the use of storage assignment phase. What all variables are there in the source program, assign locations to those variables. So proper amount of storage is reserved, that is required by program at some point of time. Now I'll see what are the main purposes of the storage assignment. So the first purpose is assign storage to all variables. So what all variables we are using in the source program, assign storage to all the variables. Then assign storage to all temporary locations that are necessary for intermediate results. Okay, so when we are doing the when we are explaining the matrix form, we have seen m1, m2, m3, etc. Those are the intermediate results, right? So for those intermediate results also we have to assign storage. So that also doing in the storage assignment phase. Then assign storage to literals. That means if we are using any constants in our source program, we have to assign storage into the storage for those literals or constants. So that the next one is the ensure that the storage is allocated and appropriate locations are initialized. Not only assigning, once we assign the locations, we have to initialize that locations also. So these are the main four purposes of the storage assignment phase. Okay, now we are going to see what are the mainly using storage classes for the variables. We have mainly four types, that is static, automatic, controlled and base. Okay, so static means what? It will be the default for externally compiled subroutines and main programs. Okay, and it will be having fixed memory for itself. Okay, that is static type storage class. Then automatic storage class means it is used for variables that won't be retained once the procedure is over. That is, for those kind variables we will be using the storage class as automatic. Then the next one is controlled. It will be used for the variables that is common block variables. Okay, so and it will protect from being used with interference. Those variables will be protect from being used with interference. Then base type of storage class means it cannot be assigned the same way as a static storage class. So these are the four storage classes we assign to the variables in generally: static, automatic, controlled, base. Okay, then always for each and every variable it will be of length 32 bits. So when we are assigning 32 bits for the variables, the representation will be 1 bit will be representing the sign, and the remaining 31 bits will be the data bits. Okay, so this is how we are representing. Okay, so 1 bit sign bit and data, remaining bits are data bit. So we'll consider the example and how will we make the entry for this statement in the identifier table. So this is our assignment statement, and this is the identifier table created in the lexical analysis phase. In the lexical analysis phase, it will add only the names of the variables. What are the names of the variables? Cost, rate, start, finish. These are the variables. Then in the semantic analysis phase, it will be adding 3 more information, that is base, scale, precision. Okay, so base means what? It is a binary representation. If it is a binary, then 2. Then scale, that will be always fixed memory size. Okay, then precision it is 31 bits. Okay, it is using to represent 31 bits. In that, 1 bit is for representing the sign. Then in this particular storage assignment phase only, the storage class and location information will be added into the identifier table. So I repeat, in the lexical analysis phase, it will make entry only in the name column. In the interpretation or semantic analysis phase, it will add the base, scale and precision information. Then in the storage assignment, it will add the information related to the storage, that is storage class and location. So here all the variables are declared as of the type static storage class. Then the location, that means where are we going to store our variables or identifiers. Okay, so here this location is the relative location. Okay, relative location will always start with a 0. Okay, so since it is 31 bits, then we know that each memory location contains 8 bits. So the next variable will start from the 4th location. Similarly, the next one will start from 8th location, then next one will start from 12th location. But make a note that these are the relative location. This is not the absolute or the real location. Absolute address or the real location will come to know only at the time of the loading. So this is the relative location or relative address. So in the storage assignment phase, we will be adding storage related information, that is the storage class type and location, into the identifier table database. Now we are going to see what are the databases we are using in the storage assignment phase. As usual, the identifier table. I showed you in the identifier table, the 2 more fields data will be added, that is storage class information and location information will be added into the identifier table in this particular storage assignment phase. Then literal table means the constants, that means it is containing constants. So in the literal table, for each constant, what is the storage class and what location also will be added. Then temporary storage table, what all intermediate temporary storage table the format I have already showed in the semantic analysis phase. So in that, for what all temporary result are generating, for those result we will be assigning the storage and the location as we did in the identifier table. Then matrix also we will be using to refer the variables and values, to refer the order of the entries also we will be using matrix, and it will be assigning the storage type, and it will initialize the variables also. So these are the databases using in the storage assignment phase: identifier table, literal table, temporary storage table, and matrix. That's all about the code optimization phase and storage assignment phase. In the next video we will be discussing about code generation phase and assembly phase. Thank you. Thanks for listening.